Good Monday morning. It is June 30th. Can you believe it? We are about to put June in the rear view mirror. We're not just yet, though. I don't ever want to rush away the days of summer. Hopefully you had a great weekend and you're ready for the upcoming week. This is the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. We're broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios in Norfolk, Virginia, serving Hampton Roads, that's Southeast Virginia, and Northeast North Carolina, including the Outer Banks. Every weekday morning at 9 o'clock, we do the Weather Desk, where we tackle today's top weather headlines. We do have some interesting stuff to talk about. I love it when we pull together, when I walk in to the studios here and I start working with our producers. You know, you never really know exactly what the content of the show is going to be, and we start looking at those big weather stories, what happened over the weekend, what's going on right now around the country and around the world. And as we start pulling together the content, it's kind of like opening, I don't know, like surprise packages or whatever, trying to say, okay, well, we're going to talk about this and this and this. I think we've got some great topics for you, so let's get into it. We're going to start off with a look at the weekend weather wrap up. There were some rough storms, some weather impacts. We're also going to look ahead, as we typically do here, with storms that are likely today. We also have more activity in the tropics. We've got an area we're going to be watching very carefully. National Hurricane Center identifying part of the Atlantic very close to the United States. We'll talk about that. I'll show you the area that could see some development over the coming week. And we've got that system Flossie back over the Eastern Pacific. I'll give you the latest on that one as well. There's also some pretty interesting international weather going on. There's wildfires in Turkey. Massive flooding in Venezuela. I'll take you to the western part of Venezuela and show you some of the video from that area. Really hit hard. So we always try to take a look at international stories and let you know what's going on. As we take a look, an update on that fireball, that cool story from last week with that fireball across the sky. We've got an expert that's weighing in on his thoughts with that. We've got another rocket launch to talk about, and then we go from real rockets to bottle rockets and other types of fireworks set to go off this weekend. Friday night specifically, I've got that fireworks forecast, so we'll be taking a look at that. Let's start off, though, with a look at the temperatures yesterday. Still a lot of heat across the country. Norfolk was at 92 degrees. It was 95 in Little Rock. Wichita's on 93, 94 in Dallas and San Antonio. Temperatures hot in Chicago, 94 degrees right there on Lake Michigan. Then you head out to Phoenix. Check that out. Yeah, okay, it's a dry heat. People say that. 114 is still really, really hot. 104 in Vegas. So a lot of heat across the country. And, you know, we'll take a look at those satellite images and going over the weekend. This is a 48-hour loop taking you back to Saturday and Sunday. You saw some of the storms out there. Heavy rain, flash flooding, and tornadoes slammed parts of the U.S. over the weekend. You see those storms as things loop along. Here's a look at the aftermath in Georgia. We're going to start off down there where a Norfolk Southern train derailed in Peach County. The sheriff's office says the derailment was caused by high waters. Fortunately, no one got hurt and the cars were not carrying any hazardous material. But it took hours for crews to clean up that mess. Wow. All right. So the severe weather also caused chaos at airports across the country. It delayed and canceled flights coming in and out of North Carolina over the weekend. Anna King with our sister station in Charlotte heard from passengers.
Mid-afternoon Saturday, Charlotte Douglas Airport was filled with delays and disappointment.
I was headed to Mississippi, and they told me everything was canceled, and it was just caused me undue stress.
Airlines blamed the severe weather that swept across the Midwest and South for the delays that left a trail of travel troubles.
We were delayed, and eventually we landed here like 30 minutes after our returning flight left.
I've been on a work trip since early Tuesday morning. I am supposed to go back to work Monday, and I'm exhausted. I literally just want to go home.
Crowded terminals, long security lines, and limited Ubers and Lyfts left many passengers stuck searching for options.
We were not given accommodations, so we shacked up in, our gate for like multiple hours. Finally left to go get something to eat and just came back.
As flight crews work to get schedules back in order, airport officials are urging passengers to plan ahead. Remember to check your flight status early and often. Get to the airport with time to spare. And don't forget your real ID if you're traveling domestic. At the Charlotte Douglas Airport, Anna King, WCNC Charlotte.
All right, WCNC, our sister station out of Charlotte. Obviously, weather impacting travel. And as we look this morning, we've got kind of a quieter scenario across much of the country. There are a few flood advisories back across north central Kansas and south central Nebraska. This complex of storms here producing some locally heavy rain. There's some rain down over the Gulf. You can see what's left of Barry there along the Gulf Coast down into Mexico. And we're going to visit that in the tropical update here in just a moment. Some spotty showers back across parts of Ohio and Pennsylvania. This is an area that should see some more activity a little later today. Some wet weather back up across Minnesota, and things quiet out west right now. So not too bad, but hot, as I mentioned, around Phoenix and Vegas. They are dealing with sweltering heat. So let's look at the storm outlook for today. As we go forward now, we're going to see this area shaded in this green, level 1, marginal risk. You can see that extends from New Jersey back through Philadelphia, all of Pennsylvania, obviously Pittsburgh there, Baltimore, Dover, Delaware, back across D.C., Northern Virginia into West Virginia, all of Ohio, Indiana, most of Illinois, Missouri, St. Louis, down through Joplin and Springfield, Little Rock, Arkansas, back across Oklahoma and into North Texas, a little bit back here down around Arizona and southwest New Mexico there. So this is the line that we are watching. I can tell you Hampton Roads is not outlooked for severe weather today. If you're watching from either northeast North Carolina or southeast Virginia, we are not identified in that area for severe storms. The areas that are, though, those areas shaded in green, you can see the primary threat would be some gusty winds, maybe a little bit of hail back across parts of Texas around the Panhandle, back through central Oklahoma and into southwest Missouri. When you consider how active the maps have been for weeks and weeks and weeks, really months, now that we're getting into summer, you might expect some of this severe weather threat to start diminishing for a little bit. It just gets super hot. That is the case today. I mean, yes, we do have these potentials for a little more storminess, but over the past, weeks, we've seen levels 2 and sometimes level 3 threats for severe storms. We just have that level 1 threat for today. Now, tomorrow, you can see we do get back to that slight risk or a level 2 threat back across parts of the East Coast here. While the rest of the country is very, very quiet, I do want to focus on this level 2 threat, what we call a slight risk, from D.C. to Baltimore. You can see all the way up through Harrisburg, over to Philadelphia, Allentown, and back up to New York, basically right to the edge of New York City. So these areas, obviously New Jersey, Newark, those areas need to be prepared for some stronger storms tomorrow. And as we take a look down across Hampton Roads, we do have a level 1 threat for showers or storms. That would be late tomorrow. And I think it's mainly going to be to the north, but we could see a few stronger storms down across Hampton Roads or into northeast North Carolina. So we'll be watching for all of that. Currently, the satellite and the radar images showing quiet conditions across the area, but it is steamy. Our current dew points are in the mid-70s. And when you have dew points in the 70s and air temperatures up into the low 90s, it feels like it's close to 100. We get in the low to mid-90s. It's going to feel close to 102, maybe 103 for some spots. Not quite to heat advisory threshold. For our area, Hampton Roads in northeast North Carolina, we need to see 105 for 3 hours consecutively. That would be the criteria for a heat advisory. All right. We were there last week. We're not quite there today, so not quite as bad as it has been, but still hot and humid. You got to stay hydrated. Take breaks from the heat as you are able. All right, we're going to turn our attention back down to North Carolina and specifically the Asheville area. where a man is being honored for his heroic actions during Hurricane Helene. Eddie Hunnell will receive the Carnegie Medal, one of the nation's highest civilian honors, for helping rescue a woman from the floodwaters in Holly Springs. That woman ended up in water after her home was swept off its foundation. Hunnell first tried to reach her by canoe, but the current was just too strong. So he jumped in and helped pull her to shore. Hunnell is a software engineer who had no formal rescue training beyond a lifeguard certification from his teenage years. Quite a story. Well, we're now almost a month into the Atlantic hurricane season, and we now have our second storm. This was Barry. That happened yesterday. And as you can see, we're looking at some wet weather coming in to the Mexican coast off the Gulf. Barry formed yesterday, and really by 11 o'clock last night, it was moving inland and was a remnant low. They issued the last statement, the last official update on Barry at 5 a.m. this morning. So let's talk about the tropical update and what's going on now in the Atlantic. Most of the basin is actually still pretty quiet. We have what's left of Barry, still a lot of rain, and that's going to continue to produce some heavy rain back into the north central part of Mexico. You can see across the Caribbean, things are pretty quiet and things look good across the rest of the basin. But we are still keeping an eye on the remnants of Barry. And then we have this new area that we're watching with a 20% chance for development somewhere around Florida. Now, you see this area that the Hurricane Center is identifying with this 20% chance. It's kind of elongated here. You might go, well, that's kind of a weird shape. Well, the reason that we're looking at this kind of stretched out, it kind of looks almost like a bean that's been stretched out a little bit. There's going to be a frontal boundary that's basically going to stall out. And when these old fronts come through and kind of fizzle out or decay, and they stall out over these warm waters, you can still get some convection, still enough lift, and sometimes you can get a low-level spin. And if the upper-level winds are light enough, we can see systems form along that decaying boundary. Right now, we've got a couple clusters with some convective development, some heavier downpours here that we'll continue to monitor. But basically, the chances for development over the next couple of days, pretty low. It is more likely, and again, it's only 20%, but this area, somewhere along this decaying frontal boundary, we could see some development out 7 days. Now, looking at some of the global models, the European really doesn't do much with this at all. The GFS, the U.S. Global Forecast System, that model does kind of bring a little something up into this area right around the Big Bend here, back over maybe towards the Panhandle. But even that doesn't really strengthen it a lot. Still, it is something we'll be keeping a close eye to and keeping you updated on. As we mentioned, Barry formed Sunday. Chantal is the next name on the list, so we'll watch to see if anything happens with that. Here's a look at Flossie, and Flossie is over in the Eastern Pacific. You can see the 8 a.m. advisory on Flossie, still a tropical storm, but I can tell you at 5 o'clock, it had 45-mile-per-hour winds. It's now up to 50, so it's strengthened a little bit, gust to 60. Movement is still northwest. At 5 o'clock, the northwest movement was 12 miles per hour. Now it's slowed just a little bit. But the center of this system stays out over water. It is forecast to become Hurricane Flossie, and then eventually maybe a Cat 2 as we get into early Wednesday. So a little bit of strengthening over the next couple of days. Right now, it's looking like it's going to stay west of the Baja Peninsula, but we'll keep a close eye and let you know if it does move closer to the peninsula or whether it stays farther offshore. It will eventually weaken, most likely Friday into Saturday, back to a remnant low. But it is something to watch. And you think about it, Flossie, I mean, we've had... That's now the 6th name system that we've had out there, and they've all been very close to each other within a couple hundred miles of forming in the same general area. So a lot going on there in the Eastern Pacific so far. We'll continue to watch that. All right, so now we're going to take you down to Venezuela, and they've been dealing with tremendous flooding. They are trying to recover after flooding placed several northern and northwestern towns underwater. The water buried trucks and caused several homes to collapse, impacting nearly 300 families. Crews are now working to clear the debris. And again, water rushing through these towns over the past few days. It has been a very rough go across northern and western sections of Venezuela. We're going to take you overseas to Turkey, and in Turkey, it's not flooding, it's wildfires. The firefighters in Turkey are working to put those wildfires out. Strong winds are slowing down their efforts and helping fuel those flames. More than 1,000 firefighters are on the ground, while dozens of planes and helicopters are in the air. Several neighborhoods have been evacuated, and at least 3 firefighters have been hospitalized for smoke inhalation. There have been no other reported injuries, but you can see back in Turkey, wildfires has been a big problem. All right, we're going to come back to the United States and the Southeast U.S. And the reason we're turning our attention to the Southeast, you remember last week the story, that mysterious fireball sighting that lit up the sky, invisible in much of the Southeast? Well, we showed you the incredible video on Friday. Drivers in several states were startled by the bright light streaking across the sky. Maggie Fitzgerald with our sister station in Macon, Georgia, asked an expert what he thought it was.
Live out in the country, so at night I see shooting stars, so at night it really doesn't shock me or anything.
It's a bird? It's a plane? Nope. It's a meteor. And for Josh Grant, it's something he wouldn't typically blink twice about. But seeing a fiery streak during the daytime, it caught him and hundreds of others a bit off guard.
Didn't know what it was. Based on the world today, you never know. So that's why I thought it was interesting, but maybe be a once-in-a-lifetime video if it was a meteorite during the day.
But a sighting like that isn't as rare as it may seem, according to Professor Matthew Marone. He teaches all things astronomy and physics at Mercer University.
Not unusual for these kind of things to happen. I wouldn't be panicked about it. I would be excited to go out there and actually see if I can find a piece of it, but I wouldn't be panicking about it.
According to emergency management crews, a piece of that meteor, about an inch long, was found in Henry County on Thursday. Marone has his own meteorite collection and explains when meteors come in very fast, the frictional heating can make them incredibly bright.
Any black is the fusion crust, where the outer part of the rock had been melted. And again, we saw this thing being very, very bright, right? So it's very hot and incandescent.
Pieces like this are often debris left behind from a comet. In this instance, Marone says, the Pons-Winnicott comet, which creates an annual meteor shower during orbit this time of year.
The peak of that meteor shower is tomorrow, and it's the Bow-Tid meteor shower. I think it'd be nice to go out and actually watch the meteor shower itself.
Yeah, it's cool to check that stuff out, and it's kind of nice to hear a little more scientific take on what causes the bright flash that you see there with the debris coming into the atmosphere as it burns off. It is visible and spectacular. All right, something else that's always fun to watch. There was another Blue Origin launch over the weekend. This one in Texas. Check it out. You can see 6 passengers took off from Texas on Sunday. The suborbital flight lasted 11 minutes. Surpassing the Kármán line. That's the boundary between Earth and space. And passengers included lawyers, there was a philanthropist, some business leaders. This launch marks the 13th human space flight by Blue Origin, which is owned by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. So there you go, another Blue Origin rocket launch and landing. 13 times they've done that. It's pretty exciting. Still, I always get excited to check it out. But they're getting this down to a pretty smooth routine. I don't think they've ever really had any issues with any of the launches. So great to see those folks treated to this spectacular view and this incredible experience, and then to return to Earth safely. It's always wonderful. All right, back here at home, June is wrapping up. As I mentioned, it is the 30th, the last day of June. And you take a look at what we've been seeing here throughout the month. We started off a little cooler. The beginning of the month, really 4 or 5 of the first 6 days below average. Then we warmed up a little bit towards the end of the second week. By the third week, a little reset with some cooler weather, and then really the pattern flipped and the heat set in from the 18th and 19th. We had one cool day there, a little break on that Friday the 20th. Then we had that run of very hot weather, the hottest day of the year. Last Thursday, 3 o'clock at Norfolk International, we hit 99 with a heat index of 112. can see on Friday, the backdoor front came in and cooled us down. That was a day that never saw it above 83 at Norfolk International. Pretty crazy to see that big drop off just with a little backdoor front sliding down. Then as that lifted, that opened the door for warmer weather over the weekend. Today is going to be hot, and we're going to start July on a hot note. Temperatures will be a little closer to average later in this week upcoming for Hampton Roads, but that's how things have played out as far as the temperatures go. We did get a little rain over the weekend, but you know, we're in pretty good shape as far as overall rainfall goes. Drought monitor showing normal conditions for rain across the region. And for the year, Norfolk is about 1/10 of an inch above average. So we're doing fine as far as rainfall goes. As we look ahead today, we're looking at temperatures that will top out in the low to mid 90s. You can see a lot of sunshine this morning, a few more clouds later this afternoon. You factor in the humidity, and it is going to feel like it's up over 100 degrees. At the beaches, lots of folks turning out, and why not? What a great way to beat this oppressive heat and humidity. You see those feels like temperatures up around 100 at noon, 101 by 1 o'clock, and 102 from 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. We start to come back down a little bit. After 6 and 7, we're back into the 90s. And I just said this earlier on Daybreak. It's kind of crazy when we look forward to it feeling like it's in the 90s. You know, we've been through some hot weather. That's going to be the case today. Obviously, got to stay hydrated and take it easy out there. So today's highs around 93, 94 degrees. Tomorrow, 95. Back to 87 on Wednesday. The reason for that, we're going to see some more showers and some scattered thunderstorms on Wednesday. I think that'll help keep temperatures down a little bit. 91 on Thursday, near normal as we get into Friday, the 4th of July, Saturday, and then a little warmer through the weekend and into early next week. Obviously, summer is here in full force. We're making it through it, but it has been brutal. So let's take a look at the sky view here. The Thompson Creek Window Company, mainly clear right now. As we look at the airport condition, this is the key right here, 75 for a dew point. When you get the heat and humidity combined, this is where it gets so oppressive. There is a moderate threat of rip currents along the Jersey Shore. If you're watching anywhere from Delaware down through Maryland or the Eastern Shore for the coastal sections of Virginia Beach and down through Oregon Inlet, there's just a low threat of rip currents. South, though, as you take a look back down towards Hatteras and down through Ocracoke, that's where you get back into a moderate threat of rip currents that way. At the beaches today, we're going to find that UV index very high. Got to wear that sunscreen. Rip current threat is low. Water temperature now 80. So that coastal water is really warm. As you can see, the surf height just 2 feet. Air temperatures today up around 90, maybe 91 degrees. Now, I mentioned 80, warm at the ocean. Look at the bay, 83 degrees for a current bay temperature. It's like bath water, really. Waves 1 to 2 feet, the seas 2 to 3 feet. We've got a high tide coming up around 2 o'clock this afternoon. Right now, the radar and satellite images showing the dry conditions. We'll get into the future cast. There might be a couple of stray showers or an isolated storm this afternoon, but the chances are pretty low, only about 20%. Overnight tonight and into tomorrow, it's looking good across the region. We are going to enjoy a decent amount of sunshine early tomorrow. Temperatures warm once again. Afternoon showers or storms possible. They'll be kind of hit and miss across the area late in the day. Chances going to about 30%. Then on Wednesday, you can see some scattered wet weather kind of working through the region. So I do expect better chances on Wednesday, and around 50% we'll call those chances coming up scattered on Wednesday. All right, our allergy report still showing moderate levels of grass pollen, trees, weeds, mold, not a problem. Temperatures today topping out low to mid 90s across the south side. Enjoy the sunshine, but again, protect your skin and know that we'll see maybe a few more clouds late. Slight risk of a stray shower or storm. We could see something, especially off to the north, Sunny Bank, Cape Charles, maybe something a little farther to the south, but it should be isolated. Across North Carolina, mostly sunny, hot across northeast North Carolina, low to mid 90s for inland areas, and then closer to 90 at the Outer Banks. Overnight tonight, the low near 77, partly cloudy, muggy and warm. Tomorrow back up to 95, a few stray storms possible late. Now, I mentioned I'd have that fireworks forecast for you. This is coming up for Friday before we get to that 7-day forecast. I want to let you know if you are watching here in Southeast Virginia or Northeast North Carolina, we're looking at low 80s around the evening time between 9 and 10 o'clock and partly cloudy skies with light east winds. Doesn't get much better for the pyrotechnics. You know, as they get in, the guys setting up the fireworks, setting up the barges on the Elizabeth River, it's going to be spectacular, provided nothing changes. And right now, there's pretty good confidence Friday looks awesome. So that's great. If you are watching from outside of Hampton Roads, as we go this week, I'll be doing more national outlooks for fireworks. So if you're tuning in or if you plan on spending your 4th of July in another part of the country, I'll let you know what you can expect. A little more broad view a little later this week on the weather desk. All right, so I mentioned about a 20% chance for that stray shower storm today. Goes up to about a 30% chance later in the day tomorrow. And then Wednesday, around a 40 to 50% chance. I think Thursday is going to be drier. I left 20% on for a lingering morning shower, but I just don't think there's going to be a lot there. It should become mostly sunny on Thursday. Friday looks great. 4th of July, sunshine, a few clouds, partly cloudy for the evening, 89, which is normal. By Saturday, back up to 90, and then a chance for a few isolated storms later on Sunday. All in all, things are looking really good. Now, that's how things look now. You know the forecast can change as we get closer to the 4th of July weekend, and a great way to stay up to date on that when you're on the go is by downloading the 13 News Now app. Remember, you'll always get the latest news, traffic, and weather on the go wherever you are with the 13 News Now app. Scan that QR code on the screen. Download the app now. It's free on the App Store and Google Play. Guys, thanks so much for joining us for today's edition of the Weather Desk. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. We hope you've enjoyed this one. We've got today's top weather headlines each and every weekday morning starting at 9 o'clock. Hope to see you next time.